What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. I wanted to do a recap of Day 2 and Salt Lake City Regionals overall, the first North American Regionals of the 2022 season. Look at the results, some lists from the event. Of course, the event just ended, so we don't have every single person's list. You know, people are driving and flying home, going to sleep, celebrating their results, whatever it may be. So we don't have everybody's lists yet. It doesn't work like an online event that you guys have been used to the past couple of years. But I will have lists from this event in my best decks of the week video in this week's installment, and we do have about 8 or so lists to look at today. Because the lists that from top 8 that aren't on Limitless I've found on Twitter and Facebook. So yeah, let's start going over it. But first, shout out to my sponsors, PotownStore.com, the best place to get PTCGO codes. Use code Celio for 5% off. Also use code Celio over at cardtroopergames.com. You can check out Beast Coast Pokemon. We do a history of Pokemon TCG series over there where we're playing with retro decks. A sneak peek is that I will be playing with an Erica's Dratini and Aerodactyl deck over there soon with real life cards. So you don't want to miss that over at Beast Coast Pokemon. And check out deck lists at PokemonCard.io. Links for all that in the description down below. And yeah, let's get into this. So the first big regionals, over 600 players. Oh, not just the first big regionals, the first regionals in North America. And so long, over 600 players. And we had 74 players make day 2. It says 73 here because 8th place was 8th place that is not listed here. This person got bumped up from 9th. 8th place was DQ'd after going into top 8 and then deck checking. Their double turbo energies were marked, so there is one person missing from the standings officially, and they were playing a double turbo energies. I want to say they were playing an Arceus variant. I don't remember exactly. We won't be looking at their list since they were DQ'd. They're not listed on Pokestats or Limitless. I'll leave these links in the comments or description, by the way. So Andrew Bennett Kennett ended up winning with Arceus V-Star, Gengar V-Max with Bibarel. And my teammate and testing partner, Finnegan Lynch, got second with Suicune Ludicolo. Very happy about that. Top 4 was Zach Cooper with Gengar VMAX Houndoom, Nick Moff with Arceus V-Star, and Teleon Galarian Moltres. This is much different. This isn't exactly straight Arceus. I don't know what we're going to be calling these decks, but the deck that Nick and Ian played they only had 2/2 Arceus in them, so they're not straight Arceus. Whereas there were people that played straight Arceus with just a baby Moltres in it. This is different from that. Gabriel Smart did not play Mew VMAX. We have to edit that on PTCG stats. He also played the Gengar VMAX deck, same as Zach Cooper, and Xander Perot in top 8 with Arceus, V-Star, and Telly on the straight Arceus, and we will be able to see his list today as well. There's a lot of cool decks in day 2 that I'll be covering on the channel. Arceus with Sandaconda VMAX, Arceus with Malamar VMAX. But let's talk about a little bit of my opinions and reactions on some of this. So Cash from PokeStats put this together. The SLC day 2 counts of everything. This was the meta share in day 2. There was 32 Mew VMAX players according to the reports that we got in day 2 of the event that made it in out of this list. So 32 Mew VMAX players. None of them made top 8. So much Mew VMAX hate around between the Gengars, the Arceus decks with Moltres, the Arceus Malamar VMAX, the Arceus decks without Moltres but with Path to the Peak and Sydney, Beedrill, Eternatus, Arceus Gengar, a Jolteon even, you know, with all the Path to the Peaks, a lot of things. Everybody was prepared for Mew VMAX. Who could have saw this coming? Everybody practiced against Mew VMAX, and if they weren't beating it consistently, at least had a game plan and knew how to beat it. So yeah, no Mew VMAXs made top 8. The highest placing one was Caleb Gedimer at 11th place, who was then bumped up to 10th after the DQ. So I'm not surprised to see that many Mew VMAX play day 1. We still don't have the day 1 meta shares yet, but I'll do something with that when we do. I'm not surprised to see that many Mew VMAX make day 2. I am surprised that absolutely zero MUV Max made top eight. Prior to seeing what the top players brought, I would have said, three or four MUV Max in top eight. After seeing, another group actually playing Arceus Gengar, I think multiple people playing Arceus Gengar, which was something that my group worked on, didn't get it perfected. They played Suicune Ludicolo instead. Seeing that, seeing Malamar VMAX, seeing the straight Gengars doing well, seeing more people playing dark packages in Arceus and Teleon, seeing Rahul Reddy and Isaiah Bradner's group bringing the Sydney Path to the Peak with the Beaverl in Arceus Intel. After seeing all of that, I would have said, okay, one or two Mew VMAX in top eight, maybe, but I never would have guessed zero because Mew VMAX is such a powerful, powerful deck, and the results of one tournament doesn't change that. If Mew got all top eight at this tournament, it wouldn't have changed my opinion on anything. Mew getting no top eights, I guess it changes my opinion on uh the count. Actually, no, it doesn't, because I already said that I thought Mew VMAX was counterable, and people did have decks that beat it. I was pretty adamant about that in the meta discussion last week. Asking my guests, can there be a Mega Audino type thing? Can this or that beat it? And I had already known about Arceus Gengar Bibarel, knowing that beat it pretty well. I think Drew's list could have actually been built to beat Mew VMAX specifically even more so than it was, but it also did really well against a lot of other things, obviously, because he won. And also Arceus and Teleon Sydney Path to the Peak, also working Bibarel into those decks. So I did fully believe that there would be decks that can beat Mew VMAX. I also thought better of Jolteon than some of the guests on my meta discussion, and Jolteon's matchup against Mew VMAX, that ended up actually going into what? Eighth place after the DQ. So I didn't think Mew was unbeatable going into the weekend, but I think, I not that I think, now I know more people are also on that same brainwave that there are things that beat Mew consistently. Mew's probably still the best deck because it formed the centralized metagame. 32 people made day two with Mew, but that's also because of the popularity of it. Um, so yeah, I am surprised to see Zero Mew make top eight. Again, this is a typo. This should be Gengar VMAX. I am surprised no Mew VMAX made top eight. I am surprised that the straight Gengars made it as far as they do, because I actually don't think that's a good deck. I think the Arceus Gengar is way better. I would have never played this, but this was my top choice if I were to go. Suicune Ludicolo, I don't think anybody but Finn would have taken it this far. He's really, really good with the deck. I'll have him on the channel sometime in the next week, and we'll talk about it again. But he was on my meta discussion if you want to hear his thoughts prior to the event. And Isaiah Bradner did really well, 17th place, just missing the top 16, but a great performance. He was also on my meta discussion, so if you want to hear what these players were thinking, four days before the event, and then what they ended up thinking the day before, and then what they actually submitted, that might be good to go and look back on, because really the week leading up to the event, a lot of things change for some people. They test things, they find new counters, new text, new lists, etc. So if you have any specific questions about any of this that I'm talking about, please leave it down below, and I can either respond in the comments, or if it's enough, I can just make a whole other video about it. But yeah, so here's Cash Vendors day two. That's just all of this basically wrapped up into one. And here's the Limitless page. So they have 4 of the lists on Limitless so far, 2 of them being the same 60 from Zach and Gabe. So we'll look at those on here. We'll start with Xander Perot's Arceus Inteleon. Wow, I haven't been on regular Limitless in a while. I'm so used to play Limitless. So this is what Isaiah Bradner, Xander Perot, Rahul Reddy, Michael Slutsky, Sam Chen, and I'm forgetting one other person. I believe six of the people played this deck. Oh, and John Eng. So all 6 of them played this deck, and I think 4 of them made day 2, and the other 2 got points. If any of you are watching this, you can correct me in the comments. Basically, 6 great players played this good deck list, and they all did well. Um, The Sydney is something I started testing myself like 2 days before the event. Obviously, I didn't go, but working with just a straight B-Burl engine and no Inteleon, and then plus Sydney plus Path of the Peak, like two Marnie, one Judge, or some kind of split is what I was kind of working with, but also not testing it too intensively since I wasn't going, and I knew my testing partners weren't just switching to this deck the night before because they kind of already had their choices. I'm happy that people caught on to 3 Drizzile, playing a Choice Belt in the deck, and playing a Zigzagoon in the deck, because the early renditions of Arceus were playing 4 Drizzile, no Goon, no Choice Belt. It just felt like wasted space and just overly consistent without enough options. Definitely liking this list, and this is the direction I'm going to be going with my lists for straight Arceus from now on. And I just closed Limitless, so we have to reopen that. Did not mean to close it. Okay. And then we've got Gabriel Smart and Zachary Cooper's uh Gengar VMAX deck. The typical way to play Gengar VMAX with Houndoom and then that one Stone Journer. What's very interesting is they play double Tool Jammer and no Choice Belt. So that Tool Jammer negates Big Charm. It can be really pesky for choice belts coming in at Gengar VMAX. Also, Capes of Toughness, things like Elemental Badge on Jolteon, that's a little more fringe. But built for consistency with the Quick Ball, VIP Pass, Ultra Ball, heavier supporter count than some Gengar lists. Some of them, go down to like 7 or 6 draw supporters. The Tool Jammer being the really unique inclusion in this list, though. And then also on the Limitless page, we have Ian Robb's Arceus box thing. So you guys start telling me in the comments what we're going to be calling these decks. But like I said, it's not straight Arceus because it has 2/2 Arceus, but it's also not Hoopa Moltres because it doesn't play Hoopa, it doesn't play Sableye, it doesn't play G Weezing. So it's kind of like Dark Box plus Arceus, but like it's also not Dark Box. So I don't know. But this listed very, very well. You can watch it being played on stream by both Ian and Nicholas. They played one card different. This is Ian's version. He didn't play. I think one of them didn't play the scoop up net. Let's see. Nope, they're both playing the scoop up net. They definitely had one card different. This being Ian's and this being Nicholas's. So Nicholas played the second Shady Dealing Inteleon. And I'm not sure what Ian played differently. But feel free to leave that in the comments down below if you figure it out. Is it Palpad? I think it's Palpad. Yep. There we go. So Nicholas played second Shady Dealings Inteleon, and Ian Robb played one Palpad instead of that second Shady Dealings Inteleon. So just a small difference, but yeah, I've really enjoyed this list because they play 3 different types of energy, showing that you can, control which energies you're using via energy search training core, and then you have the Aqua Bullet attack open with that, and the Thunderous Kick attack open with Galarian Zapdos V. And then that was 5th place, this is 4th place. Very, very similar deck, 59 cards. The same. Nick did post a right side up picture, but he forgot escape rope and net in that one, so I'm showing you guys the sideways one. And then let's see what else we have going on here. And then we have, so we got through those. Zach playing the same as, actually, I think Zach and Gabe were also one card different. Let's see. Yeah, they are one card different. So Zach plays the 4/4/4 ball ball pass, but Gabe, however, played 4/4. Oh, they switched. Gabe plays 4 earn and 3 ball, whereas Zachary plays 3 earn and 4 ball. Okay, so again, just a 1 card difference. So 2 almost 60 card pairs in the top 8 of the tournament. And then we have left Finnegan and Drew. So Finnegan posted his list recently on Facebook. Um, Finn has been playing Suicune for months. Like pre Mew VMAX, he's been playing Suicune Ludicolo. I've tested this with him. I've watched him play it. You know, we've talked about this list over and over and over. The 4 cross switcher were monumental. That's just something that he found through hundreds of games with this deck. He didn't need quick shooting Inteleon. He didn't need boss's orders. He didn't need bad supporters, basically, because anything not accelerating an energy to your Suicune in this deck just felt poor, or accelerating an energy to your Inteleon. High consistency with the triple capacious bucket. The Echoing Horn is very, very good. The Choice Belt was a nice addition to the deck. Cape of Toughness, because of Arceus, because of Duraludon, because of a couple things. Really, really great list that he got second with. Now, to finish it off, um, Drew, who won the event, has not shared his list yet. So we do know he had Hyperpot, Tool Scrapper, Collapse Stadium. Those were all shown in games, and he also posted this picture. But I have to imagine it's something similar, or was potentially influenced by a Japanese list like this. This is one that I found in my early days looking at Gengar Arceus, and eventually started using this as an inspiration as well. Also, Mark Dizon on Twitter posted one a little while back, like a week or two ago. So if you want to keep up on the winners list, at Let's Drew This on Twitter, but I'm sure Limitless and PokeStats will have the list eventually after he posts it as well. And I'll probably do like a deck profile plus PTCGO gameplay with it. But overall, uh, my group was really on Arceus, Bibarel, Gengar, VMAX, and that was the deck we were trying to crack. We felt like we couldn't get it there, so most of my friends from the group who went just defaulted to Suicune Ludicolo because Finn had tested the list a lot. However, Finn was able to play the list to a much higher proficiency because he had played with it and tested it and really knew the deck so well. If I went, my top choices that I told my patrons about a couple of days ago were Arceus Inteleon or Arceus Gengar Bibarel. Um, so I would have went with either of those. Looking back, I probably still went with either of those. They're both fine. They're both great decks. We just really didn't want to beat Mew V. We didn't want to play Mew VMAX because we wanted to beat it. We didn't want to play the deck with the target on the back, and you'll see that a lot throughout top players. Although there were really great players that played Mew VMAX. Caleb Gedimer, Azul, Tablemon, they all played Mew VMAX. But a lot of times, top players don't want to play the best deck, and that's what you see here. Xander, Ian, Finn, everybody in top 8 basically was a named player. Charlie Locke, Gabe Shumway, we got Isaiah Bradner, which I might have mentioned already, Israel Sosa, and John Ang. All these people playing either like a single prize deck, a Gengar deck, or an Arceus deck, not wanting to play Mew. Because my closing thoughts will be, there's been a lot of discussion about Mew being a very high skill cap deck and having a high skill ceiling. I do think it's incredibly hard to play perfect Mew VMAX game. There are so many sequencing, there's so many sequences, a lot of cards being played. Do I discard this? Do I hold it? Do I draw first, or do I play the item? Do I flip for Cram, or do I do this first? There's a lot of sequencing. Most of the stuff with Mew VMAX that is very hard is on your side of the table. It's not necessarily interaction with the opponent, reacting or being proactive. It's more so optimally playing to draw the cards you need with while dumping the least amount of resources. Of course, there are, do I boss this or do I attack the active? Do I attack with Meloetta or do I attack with Mew? There are interactive choices, but a lot of it is, a lot of what's coming out about like having this high skill ceiling for Mew is because of all the sequencing and how to optimally play it. But I don't feel like there's much of a difference at the higher level. Whereas with Arceus, with Suicune, with the Arceus Gengar variants, um, with the Bird Box, Galarian Moltres, and Teleon, whatever you want to call those decks. Watching those games today, I felt like there were so many pivotal decisions, things that could go wrong. It wasn't just each player playing solitaire with each other, and that's why I still feel like the Arceus decks, things like Suicune, things like the Inteleon Dark package plus Arceus, whatever, etc. Those decks to me still have a higher skill ceiling than UV Max because you can actually influence your matchups with your skill and with your knowledge of the decks more than you can with UV Max. Although I will admit, UV Max, it's very, very hard to play a perfect game with. I don't feel like your skill actually influences the outcome of your matchup as much, especially in the mirror matches. So just my little take on that and why a lot of great players did not play Mew and why Mew didn't make top 8. But again, looking back, I still would have guessed 2, 3, 4 Mew V Max make top 8. I don't think anybody could have made an educated guess with reasoning that Mew V Max wouldn't make top 8. So those are my closing thoughts. I will have a best decks of the week video up as soon as we get all the lists from this tournament, because I definitely want to include Drew's list for Arceus Gengar since it just won the biggest North American regionals. Uh, Not the biggest, the first North American regionals back. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts below. PTCG stats and limitlesstcg.com for the information you saw here today. Congrats to everyone who did well at the tournament, and hope everybody that did go had fun. Everybody who watched from home had fun as well. And I can't wait to get back out there myself. Hopefully I will be going to Indiana regionals and then all the ones after that. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to some in real life competition. But for now, thank you for watching today. Check out my sponsors, everything in the description down below. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for daily Pokemon TCG content, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.